What's going on, everybody? We are back with another Freight podcast. I'm your host, Robert Bain, and I am so excited for our guest. I'm going to bring her in the studio here real quick. But before I do, the reason that we are doing this interview is because we are getting ready for Manifest. And Manifest is going to be out in Las Vegas, February 10th and 12th. The future of supply chain logistics is here. Let me tell you all, if you have not been to this conference, you need to go. It is my absolute favorite conference out of any event that I do throughout the year. And the reason being is because it has the best networking. Everything is designed to grow your business, to grow your knowledge base, and everything's designed with the attendee in mind. And those of you that present, you recognize very quickly that you get a ton of engagement from that. And so, super excited. Again, I've been to this conference every year since the inception, and I'm so excited to have our guest, who is part of that group that puts on, and that is Pam Simon. Pam, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, for those who don't know, can you talk a little bit about your background and kind of how you came to be a part of Manifest?
I feel like I've been tossed into an event space since I was little. My grandma had breast cancer, so I had been working with my mom and putting on, the Play for Pink and the different golf tournaments and bringing awareness. So I've always felt connected to that community and really making an impact. I can't help myself. I love connecting people and bringing them together. And I'm fortunate to have a great network, and I just like finding ways for my friends to get together. And I've been in logistics now for, I'm not going to date myself, but a while.
Okay.
I find the space so exciting and interesting just because there's so much room for disruption and improvement and innovation. So very excited. For those of you who don't know, Manifest is the largest global end-to-end supply chain event, and it's a full ecosystem. So we bring together investors, corporates, startups, shippers, technology, all under one roof from all over the world. So if you are moving goods or investing in the process of moving goods, then you definitely should be at Manifest.
I could not agree more. I want to be very, very clear. This is one of the most fun events you'll ever be to or go to. I mean, let's be real. It's in Vegas. Cannot have fun when you're in Vegas. I mean, come on. But also, like, again, it hits you from the moment you walk down. It's been at the Caesars Forum. It's going to be the Venetian now. When you walk down the escalator, you walk into the event space. It hits you immediately. Like, this is just, it's a different function. And like I said, again, as an attendee, I presented it at Manifest as well. It is just a very different function than anybody's ever been to. So, staying on you a little bit, you're kind of known as the connecting queen. Can you kind of share some stories about that and just kind of some of those impactful connections that you've helped create?
It's hard to call out just one impactful connection because there's so many people that I've connected from around the world over the years, and they're doing tremendous things together. So from helping companies enter Brazil and Latin America, like MyFitnessPal and Airbnb and Yelp, to expand their presence across, the whole region of Latin America. I'm pretty sure most of Nubank's investors are very pleased with their recent exit. From Manifest, some of the ones that really jump out at me, I've connected Maersk with Plug and Play, and now, they're doing some great work together, tackling some of the challenges in the maritime and warehousing and logistics spaces. Pepsi is also another great company that we've been working with. I believe they're working with 10 plus companies that they've met at the show, and I'm already hearing about the productivity and efficiency and resiliency that those connections have, brought to the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't help myself. As I said, I like bringing people together, and I like seeing what they create.
Absolutely. I think it's an important thing that gets missed when it comes to networking. Is not just networking to build your own network, but also connecting your networks together and allowing them to kind of create that flywheel effect of additional growth and idea sharing. I think that's super cool that you thrive on that. Thinking specifically about Manifest and building, one of the things that we talk about at Freight Movement is building community. And I think community is something that we need as human beings, especially post 2020. We've really missed that. Speaking of Manifest, bringing everyone together, first conference, sans masks after COVID, which was huge. So Manifest is recognized as one of the premier logistics shows, if not the premier logistics show in the space globally. What inspired you all to focus on logistics and supply chain and
prior to this, I was an investor at Lab Ventures, and we were investing in the different areas of business that dominate Florida. I'm in Miami. So transportation and logistics is one of them. And for me, I found that to be the most interesting and exciting of all the industries that I was looking at and working with. I would say, in order to drive community, it's really about understanding what the motivations are, what the problems are, looking at the needs and focuses and challenges and, why they're unique. So seeing what the problem is and who are the right people to bring in together to potentially solve these issues. So looking at it from an ecosystem perspective.
Gotcha. And then how do you approach that to create kind of that inclusive environment that really brings collaboration, it brings innovation, and really kind of breaks down the walls of everyone trying to get their piece of the pie?
I mean, it's sorry, will you ask it again? Sorry.
So how do you kind of approach that, building the ecosystem and getting into the ecosystem so it's inclusive and it allows collaboration and innovation versus necessarily people always trying to get their slice of the pie?
Yes. So I have conversations with everybody. I think talking to all of the different people that create the ecosystem to really understand what their needs are. And then once you have everyone together, it's, this industry itself is heavily based on trust. So it's further developing those relationships, and obviously in person, there's nothing that beats in person. So, once you're at Manifest, it's really creating unique shared experiences. So, it allows you to build that trust, in addition to learning about what everyone's doing, the problems they're facing. People feel very comfortable in sharing what are these issues, how can you help me? And of course, as you mentioned, our expo floor is definitely unique because it offers so many different ways to network and have fun with your peers, from the coffee bars sponsored by Viho and Return Pro to Suger's Beer Garden and, Softian's Rosé all day to Uni's mocktails. Of course, and we talked about this before, but you get to snuggle with puppies at
Yes.
the puppy lounge.
Yes.
Practice your golf swing with UPS. There's arcades. There's really something for everyone. So we really talk to everybody to understand what excites them, what's going to be fun, and we work really hard to surprise and delight. So coming up with unique ways that organic conversations can take place. Personally, I find the puppy lounge to be the most humanizing because you really get to know you get to know people on such a different level over there.
You really do, and I think it's great. I've personally gotten a lot of enjoyment out of it because I love dogs. I love animals in general, and someone said this to me, like, there's something about seeing an almost 300-pound man just crouch down and make little small noises toward the puppy that apparently is very humanizing. But it is awesome, and it's wonderful, and it's a great experience for the puppies too because they get all that interaction with people, and that's awesome. So again, thinking about events, what role do events and conferences play in strengthening relationships? And you mentioned already that being in person, that FaceTime, that connectivity. And so what role does that play in advancing logistics and supply chain, do you feel like?
I mean, I think the ability to see, touch, feel, interact with all of the latest technology, have those direct conversations with the founders and executives that are running these new innovations and seeing, how can they be implemented into your business? It's unique that we have, investors and executives and startups from all over the world. So you're hearing what's happening in all different places and being able to connect in person. It's not only, you're meeting new people, but it's also being able to connect with your network that's spread out all over the place, right? So having customers, clients, investors, partners that are all over the world. Manifest is so unique because you get to have all those people in one place. And I mean, nothing beats that in-person conversation. It's a way to bring all the right pieces of the puzzle together and have the most productive conversations that you can.
Absolutely. As someone who's attended trade shows quite a bit, I know I have a strategy. I'm sure you do as well. What would you tell somebody? Hey, you're going to your first Manifest, other than just like be excited. It's Vegas and it's going to be fun. What would you tell them? What kind of advice would you give them?
Plan ahead. The app goes live next week, so I highly recommend downloading it as soon as it goes out and starting to schedule and set up meetings. Reach out to people. Start that like early pre-conference trajectory. So that way, when you get there, it's not as overwhelming and you're not desperately trying to get someone's attention.
Mhm.
So I think, you know, the pre-planning of thinking about who do you want to meet, who do you want to connect with, looking at the content to understand what sessions are most valuable for your business, and talking to the people in those rooms, reaching out to the speakers after. Even, I mean, I'm someone that like, I love research and I do deep dives. So like for me, I go far into, you know, who are the speakers, what are their companies, and how, you know, what are some ways that we might be able to work together or collaborate. It's also good to have some of those questions or your asks, right?
Mhm.
This is an opportunity. Don't be afraid to ask, right? You have people there, you have their attention. So have your ask or your pitch pretty concise.
Yeah. I think that's a great point, specifically about about the ask. Is you've got 6,000-7,000 of the best minds in supply chain and logistics are all in one spot. This is a great place to your point, dive deep and start expanding your knowledge wherever you may sit across that spectrum. So that's huge, and pre-planning I think is the most important thing. Trying to walk in and try to schedule 10 meetings on the day of, it's not going to happen.
It will, you'll just, it's chaotic. That'll be chaotic.
Yeah,
And it already is, it'll be a little bit overwhelming just because it is a very big space and experience. And it does feel like your LinkedIn has just like burst come to life, which can be can be a little much for some people. So it's good to,
yeah.
have that pre-planning so you're not as starstruck once you are in front of people.
I always harken back to this. My only time I ever fanboyed out at any logistics event ever was last year at Manifest, and because Ben Gordon came and approached me, and I have been a fan of Ben's for a long time, and he's like, "Hey, strongest man in logistics." I'm a big fan. I'm like, "Oh my god, he knows who I am." Could not have prepared for that, but that was a super cool moment that Manifest helped to create. So for that, I thank you all.
Oh, I
Uh,
love that. I love hearing that. And Ben's fantastic. So I'm sure that was a really informative conversation.
it really was. It was super quick, but the best part is all my friends that were around. It's like, dude, you were like a small puppy when he came up. Like you were so like just giddy. Like we've never seen your cheeks get up that high. Like your eyes got all small because I was smiling so big. It was really funny.
That's awesome. I'm glad.
Yeah, it was great. Uh, so pulling back a little bit and thinking about just overall like events, because putting on an event like this is not easy. There's a lot of stuff that goes in. There's a lot of logistics that goes into it. Um, what are some of those key elements that go into producing a successful event like Manifest, and then continuing that year after year?
Well, I break it down into a few areas. So, I mean, content, dynamic discussions that provide attendees with actionable insights that they can bring back and start implementing into their organizations. Um, we work really hard on making sure that the speaker lineup is always fresh and different every year. So you're hearing different perspectives and insights from executives from all different places, companies, and around the world.
Mhm.
When it comes to the experience and the activation, it's figuring out different ways that we can bring people together in a unique fashion. So to surprise and delight, I don't want to give away too many things, but there are some very cool things that we've got in store for you in person. And then, of course, on the technology side, our app is amazing. It goes live next week. So please start scheduling, reaching out to people, and go through that process. We also have like a tile on our badges. I think you remember from the show.
Mhm.
When
Yep.
you meet someone, you're able to just tap, connect, and share information. So it really helps with that follow up and, to continue the process of, once you meet someone, you have to keep that conversation going.
Mhm.
So we're constantly, considering and thinking about different ways to foster these organic connections.
Yeah. And I want to call out that tile because that was a huge piece for me the last couple of years as that's been introduced, because one, it's very easy to then take that download, put it into a CRM and continue those conversations and track them. Also, it allows you to pack very light when you're coming to the conference. So I like that, where I'm not having, okay, I got my wallet, I got my phone, I've got my business cards, I've got enough of them that as I trade out, I'm not going to run out. So it's really nice to kind of have that. There's still some that I'll give out, but again, as you're in passing or you see somebody like, hey, I do want to talk to you, but we don't have a meeting scheduled, it's really great. You boom, connect, and you move on. So it's a great way to enhance that connecting process. So again, kudos to you all for that, and for those that listen to this, that badge is immensely powerful once you get it going.
It's so helpful, especially, I mean, like if you're in between sessions or if you're about to go to a meeting and you run into
Mhm.
someone that you want to talk to, it's a
Yep.
great, like, okay, let's just touch, let's tap it, and we'll follow up after. But at
Yeah,
least get
absolutely.
that connection, that initial connection gets made.
Yeah, it's huge. I can't tell people enough of that. Uh, so this is kind of in the same vein of as we talked about with people's advice the first time they're trying to manifest. What advice would you give somebody who's trying to start or even grow their own industry focused events? I mean, I say this selfishly because we do this through Freight Movement and through the Broker Carrier Summit, but also like, you guys have taken to a different level. What advice would you give to folks that are focused on that?
I mean, if you are thinking about starting an event in any category, I would say you really need to know and understand the industry,
Mhm.
understand the players, understand the problems, understand the possible solutions, and talk to as many people as you possibly can. Um, from all different sizes and verticals to really make sure that everything aligns and you're able to provide the type of value that you want to for these
Mhm.
attendees. I mean, we've been very fortunate to have I think I would say good mentors and industry leaders support that really believe in what you're building. I'm so grateful DHL has been supporting us since
Mhm.
very beginning, and it's been incredible to learn from them and have their support as we've been growing,
Mhm.
as well as ArcBest, DB Schenker, DP World, Ryder, Exotech, Flexport, GXO, Ocado, Penske. Like there's so many of these amazing companies that have put their trust in us and shared, and we've been able to deliver and helping them get value from being at Manifest and working with us.
I think it's a great call out too, is to get that backing and to align yourself with the goals of some of those large organizations, but also like you said, some of those smaller ones too. That whether it's going to be startups or medium sized organizations, because again the problems they face could be different than the problems that an enterprise business faces, and so being able to speak to all those is going to be huge.
Well, and also understanding like what is the scope that you're looking at, right? So like with Manifest, we have companies and startups of all shapes and sizes, which means I'm finding investors from or super early stage to private equity buyout investment bankers.
Mhm.
So then that way, like no matter what size company you are, what you're doing, there will be an investor that would be interested and make
Mhm.
a sense for you to be talking to. The same goes for corporates that are looking to work with startups. We have all different sizes, so that are serving different purposes. Some people are providing technology on the enterprise level. Some is more for SMBs. So there are those shippers, those customers in the room. So
Mhm.
really, it's looking at how do I provide value to every type of profile that's going to be at Manifest.
So I think that's a great segue to how do you ensure you have that right mix of investors, founders, industry leaders, vendors. So all how do you find that right mix and then
Yeah.
create the environment that sparks those partnerships.
I think that really it's about, asking the right question of, who do you want to connect with and how can I help you? It's not about me, right? Like I'm just a person organizing this. It's more
Mhm.
how can I make this the most value add experience for you?
Mhm.
Uh, and what are those problems? And if I have an understanding on what your problems are, I'm pretty sure I've already talked to a number of tech related folks that could solve some of those issues. So it's really about thinking about connecting those dots
Yeah,
and making those connections.
definitely. No, I love that, and I think it's an important thing. You talk about value add because I don't want to say it's overused in a lot of places, but it can be. How do you define that?
To be value add, I mean, I want
Mhm.
people to walk away with, I mean, I would think everyone that's come to Manifest so far, the reason people keep coming back and we've been doubling in growth every year is really because people are walking away with investors, with investments, with partnerships, with clients, with customers. They're really getting value that is tangible that they can bring back to their business and show like, I went to Manifest, I'm now working with XYZ. Or I went and I learned from this panel session that maybe we should be focusing on this type of automation for to solve some of our issues instead of this other type that we were maybe exploring. So it goes from content to connections in both sides.
Definitely, no, I love that. Uh, Kind of coming back to your journey a little bit. You've been a founder, you've been an investor. Maybe a couple lessons you've learned from wearing those different hats throughout your career.
It's about perspective and understanding the other's goals and long or short-term expectations. I would say as a founder, it's about refining and adapting your financial perspective and pitch skills. Whereas an investor, it's more about supporting the founder's vision and autonomy while still advising and helping to guide their vision.
I love that. That's awesome. I think that's an important piece because, with founders, there's a drive, right? There's a dream and there's something they're really pushing for. And occasionally you just need somebody there on the rudder just to make sure it stays, generally speaking, on course.
Exactly.
So I love that. Uh, so as you think about those, entrepreneurs, those founders and investors, what's one piece of advice you give them as they look to grow their network grow their business through networking and through partnerships?
It's about getting in front of the right people, being flexible, being adaptable, and knowing when to check your ego at the door. My father used to say that I should always keep a Post-it note in my pocket that says maybe he or she is right, and have the brains to pull it out and read it often. So really listen to what other people have to say. And then my biggest piece is always down to follow up, right? You can have the best conversation. You can meet someone and walk away being like, that was amazing. But unless you follow up and do something about it, then it was just a great conversation.
Yeah.
So it's really about taking action and being accountable. So after an event, after you go to a networking event or you go to a conference, like I do like a few days of just sit down and I go through every single person that I spoke to, and I systematically will follow up with all of them and schedule calls for catch-ups or advice or whatever notes I have that to follow up with them about. But I maintain the conversation and I set reminders for myself to continue doing that throughout the year.
That's huge, and I think that's a part of that being detail oriented, which you have to have a level of success. Now that said, that can also bog you down, right? Because you have a lot of connections. Obviously, you've got a large network. How do you maintain that balance between those follow-ups, that being so detail oriented, but also being creative and adaptable as a leader?
I don't know. I feel like I've figured out my system. But again, it comes down to, having those conversations and really listening to what people are saying, right? Trying to like not inject my thoughts on what they're doing. And, thinking about, okay, so if these are their problems, who are 4 to 5 people in my network that I can think of that could help them, or approach this in a different manner, or maybe they're thinking about it in a different way, and it's good to talk to someone that's a little adjacent to the industry that might have a different perspective. So for me, I feel like I can't help myself connecting people, and when I am listening to different executives and explain their issues or what they're going through, my mind is constantly kind of quaking through the people in my network. I remember conversations, so that helps.
It does, and that's a big thing. I'll say this because I don't always remember conversations, so it's take notes.
Well, yeah, if you don't remember, take notes. And frankly, like I strongly recommend doing this because I'll go to sessions and I take notes during the sessions. But also after I meet someone, I'll make some notes, so that way when I am going back through my follow-up, I have some, touch points of like, oh, these are some of the things that they were curious about, or, oh, I should remember to introduce them to so-and-so.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. So manifest is the future of supply chain. That's what it's advertised as. And I agree with that statement. From your perspective, what are the biggest trends that are shaping the future of logistics and supply chain and the innovations that are going on today?
It's a mix, obviously. Like when it comes to AI, like I can't have a conversation that doesn't include it. So that's obviously something that's been coming up a lot. And I think there's more for us to dive into and learn about. Sustainability, resilience, cybersecurity. I think there's a lot more M&A that we're going to be seeing. So more market consolidation and what that means for the industry. So those are the things that are really top of mind for me. And then, of course, different automation or scope 3. I mean, obviously we'll see, in the next week or so, how things transition with with the new policies that will be put into place. So there's also some like wait and see in that too.
Absolutely. And I think you make a good point with, the new administration coming in. And it was interesting, with their support of, for instance, longshoremen who were very against the automation in the ports, and the way that might impact jobs. So it'll be interesting to kind of see how that plays out. I agree. But on the plus side is that there are still a lot of folks that are playing in that space and are growing, quite a bit. And so I think there'll be a lot of innovations coming forward, even in the next 12 to 24 months, let alone the next 5 to 10 years, which will be kind of tough to kind of triangulate. But we're coming up on time. Typically we go about a half hour on these, but again, we're 4.5 weeks out. Why should people attend Manifest?
I mean, if you're moving goods around the world or investing in the process, you need to be at Manifest. I guarantee your partners, your customers, your clients, your tech providers, your investors, they will all be there. So you don't want to miss the opportunity to actually have all of those in-person conversations with your partners that are spread out all over the world. And also, I mean, like we have an incredible lineup of speakers. So I think, going to the different content sessions, you're going to walk away with really informative information that will be beneficial in helping your company become more resilient, more efficient, and help optimize your process automation.
I could have said it by myself. Nothing to add there. So, anything else you want the folks to know? Anything else people should hear about you? And then how do people get a hold of you, Pam?
Well, if you haven't registered yet, please register today. If you haven't booked your hotel rooms yet, we are so excited to be at the Venetian. Since the show is there, I highly recommend staying at the Venetian. It will make your life a lot easier because Vegas is huge and so is our space. So we'll save you a lot of time. Plus, there will be different networking events and activities kind of scattered throughout. So, make it easy on yourself. Yeah, I'll see you in a few weeks. I mean, book your flights, get your travel in gear.
Yep.
And the app goes live next week. So download it, start scheduling meetings, start reaching out to people and coordinating your different activities. We have lots of companies that are even, bringing their full executive teams to the shows, to have their offsites, to be able to divide and conquer between content, between the show, between meetings. So, have your strategy ready to roll, and, get some rest because it's a busy few days.
That it is. And then if folks want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Pam@connective.com or follow me on LinkedIn.
I highly recommend the follow. It's a solid follow. So awesome.
I post a lot. Yeah.
Well, Pam, thank you so much for your time today. It was exciting to talk to you. I cannot wait to see you in a few weeks at Manifest. It's, as I said, my favorite show, and we're going to have a time. So definitely looking forward to that. But thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. I'll see you soon.
Absolutely. And with that, folks, that is another Freight Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Bain. So excited that you guys got to listen to this. If you are thinking about heading to Manifest, come join us. Register now. You can save a little bit of money. We'll put the link in the bio and also in the comments here on the recording, so that way you guys can save a little money on Manifest. But till then, this has been another Freight Podcast.